The coffee had just gone cold when I saw the message. My own son's name above words that made my stomach twist. They said I'd lost my mind, that I was being taken care of for my own good. My hands shook so badly the cup slipped, shattering across the kitchen floor. Just like the life I thought I knew. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me where you're listening from. Because sometimes betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people you raised. I used to think love could survive anything. I was wrong. That was the morning my world turned upside down. Let me show you how it all began. It's strange how betrayal never comes loud. It arrives in silence, like a door quietly closing behind you. I still remember that afternoon in my living room, the air thick with tension, when I realized my own son and his wife weren't visiting me out of love. They came for money. The money from the farm I'd spent my whole life building. At first, I couldn't process it. Ryan's eyes looked so cold, so unfamiliar. The same eyes that once lit up when he'd helped me pick apples in the orchard were now filled with calculation. And Lindsay, sitting beside him with that polite, tight smile, spoke as if I were some old fool hoarding what was rightfully theirs. I could feel my chest tighten, my voice trembling, not from fear, but from disbelief that my own family could see me as nothing more than a bank account. The words stung more than I cared to admit. But what hurt most was knowing this moment would change everything. I could feel something breaking inside me, not just my heart, but my trust. It was as if decades of love and sacrifice were suddenly erased in a single afternoon. I remember standing there, the quiet hum of the clock filling the room, thinking how easily peace can be shattered. I had no idea that this confrontation was just the beginning of a battle that would test everything I believed about family, love, and self-respect. That's how it started. The storm hadn't yet arrived, but I could already feel the wind rising. There was a time, not too long ago, when my days felt simple, predictable, and peaceful. I'd wake up around 6 every morning, make a pot of coffee, and sit by the kitchen window while the sun climbed over the old oak trees. The house was quiet except for the creak of the wood floor and the distant hum of tractors from neighboring farms. After losing my husband, I found comfort in that quiet. I learned to enjoy my own company, the smell of fresh bread baking, the sound of wind brushing through the fields. For more than 30 years, that farm was my world. My husband and I built everything we had with our hands. We worked through droughts, debt, and heartbreak, but we always managed to hold on. That land wasn't just dirt. It was a record of our lives. Every fence post, every tree line carried a memory. When he passed, I promised myself I'd keep it running as long as I could, and I did. But time changes you. Your body gets tired. Your heart gets softer. When the offer came to sell the farm for $85,000, I hesitated for weeks. It felt like letting go of him all over again. But eventually, I realized I couldn't carry it anymore. I told myself it was time to rest, time to enjoy what we had earned. After the sale, for a while, I did feel a sense of relief. I bought a small house closer to town. Nothing fancy, just a quiet place with a garden and a porch swing. I started reading more, walking in the evenings, baking for the church fundraiser again. It felt peaceful, but peace can be deceptive. Sometimes, in the stillness of the night, I'd wake up with a strange feeling in my chest, as if something was shifting beneath the surface. I couldn't explain it, but I sensed that this calm wouldn't last. Maybe it was intuition, or maybe a mother's instinct. I remember sitting on that porch one evening, the air heavy and still, and thinking how fragile peace really is. One unexpected knock at the door, and everything you've built, everything you believe in, can crumble in an instant. That knock came sooner than I ever imagined. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when they showed up. No call, no warning, just the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. I remember standing in the kitchen, wiping my hands on a towel, and feeling that strange, heavy silence again. Something inside me knew this wasn't just a family visit. Ryan walked in first, smiling that polite, distant smile that never quite reached his eyes anymore. Lindsay followed, perfectly put together as always, holding a gift basket like a prop. For a few moments, everything felt forced. The small talk, the compliments about my new place, the way they glanced around as if they were taking inventory. I tried to ignore the knot forming in my stomach, telling myself I was being paranoid. But then the conversation shifted. It started with subtle comments about family security, about how I was lucky to have sold the farm when I did. Lindsay spoke with that soft, polished voice she uses when she wants something. Ryan chimed in, talking about investments and family planning, and how we should all benefit together. I listened quietly, waiting for the truth to reveal itself. And it did. They didn't come to see me. They came for the money. I can still feel that sinking feeling in my chest as I sat there, realizing what was happening. The love I had for my son didn't disappear, but it shifted, turning into something sharper, sadder. I thought about all the nights I stayed up tending to him when he was sick, the years I worked to put him through school, the farm I kept running so he'd have something to inherit. And here he was, treating me like a hurdle standing between him and a pile of cash. I tried to stay calm. I told myself to breathe, to keep my dignity. But inside, I felt something unraveling. It wasn't just about the money. It was about betrayal, about realizing that someone you love deeply no longer sees you as a person, only as a resource to be drained. When they finally left, I stood at the window watching their car pull away. The sky was turning gray, the kind that comes before a storm. I remember thinking how strange it is, how quickly warmth can turn to ice, how love can curdle into something so cold. That day, I lost more than trust. I lost the illusion that family always means love. And though I didn't know it yet, that afternoon was just the beginning of a much darker battle ahead. It's one thing to be betrayed in private. It's another to be humiliated in front of everyone you've ever known. I still remember the morning I opened my phone and saw the post. Lindsay's name was right there, her words dripping with fake concern. She wrote that I'd been acting confused, that selling the farm had affected my mind, and that Ryan and she were doing their best to care for me. She made me sound like a fragile old woman losing her grip on reality. Within hours, the whispers started. A few neighbors who used to wave from their porches suddenly looked away when I passed. Messages that used to come every morning stopped coming. Even at church, I could feel the eyes on me, the pity, the curiosity, the judgment. It's strange how fast lies spread when dressed as compassion. At first, I was paralyzed. My hands shook as I scrolled through the comments. People I'd known for decades calling me unstable. Some even suggesting I'd been manipulated by strangers into selling the farm. It felt like the ground had been pulled from under me. I thought about confronting Lindsay, about shouting the truth for everyone to hear. But that's not who I am. So I did something simpler. I took a deep breath and wrote a short post of my own. No anger, no accusations, just the truth. I explained that I'd sold the farm because maintaining it alone was too much, and that I was perfectly capable of managing my own affairs. I thanked everyone who had supported me through the years. I ended it by saying that peace, once lost, is worth defending, but never through hate. That post didn't erase the damage, but it changed something. A few kind messages trickled in. People began to see through the act, and for the first time in days, I felt a small flicker of strength return. Then, that night, I received an anonymous message, one that made everything suddenly clear. It revealed that Ryan had been hiding a $75,000 debt. Loan sharks, overdue payments, threats. My son wasn't just greedy. He was desperate. I sat there, phone in hand, staring at the screen until my coffee went cold. It hit me then. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was survival. And if they thought I'd let them destroy me quietly, They were about to learn who I really was. There comes a moment when grief turns into something else, something sharper, steadier. For me, that moment came one morning when I looked at myself in the mirror and realized I was done being afraid. They had taken enough from me. My peace, my trust, my name. I wasn't about to give them my dignity too. I remember sitting down at the table, opening my notebook, and writing 3 words: protect, prove, prevail. That was the start. That same day, I called Laura Grant, a local attorney I'd met years ago through a church fundraiser. Calm, practical, sharp as a blade. Exactly the kind of person I needed. When I told her everything, she didn't pity me. She listened, then laid out what I had to do. Document everything. Gather evidence. Stay calm. So that's what I did. I started collecting every message from Ryan and Lindsay, every email, every transaction. I kept a small folder hidden in a locked drawer, labeled Truth. I took screenshots, printed statements, and recorded notes after every call. For the first time in months, I felt in control. Then I took it a step further. I installed cameras around the house, one by the porch, one facing the driveway. I learned how to back up files, how to store data where no one could touch it. I changed my passwords, secured my accounts, and started watching patterns. The fear that once paralyzed me began turning into focus. I slept better, breathed easier. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about survival, about reclaiming my life. But just as I started to feel safe again, something shifted. One evening, I noticed a car parked across the street. Same car, same spot, 3 nights in a row. The next morning, I found muddy footprints near my back gate, too large to be mine. I checked my cameras and saw a shadow moving near the fence around 2:30 a.m. That's when I knew this wasn't just a family dispute anymore. Someone was watching me. Maybe Lindsay had hired someone, or maybe Ryan was more desperate than I realized. As I sat there, staring at the grainy footage, I felt no panic, only clarity. Whatever they were hiding, whatever they were planning, I was ready. They had no idea what kind of woman they'd awakened. It started with a bank statement that didn't make sense, withdrawals I hadn't made, charges from casinos 2 states away, and credit accounts I'd never opened. I remember sitting at the kitchen table with my glasses halfway down my nose, tracing each line like I could somehow will the truth to change. But the more I read, the clearer it became. Ryan hadn't just lied to me. He'd used my name. Over the next few days, I gathered every piece of paper I could find. Credit statements, loan notices, even a message from a debt collector claiming I owed $32,000 to a place I'd never heard of. One call led to another, and soon the picture formed. Years of gambling, hidden losses, false promises. My son had been spiraling for a long time, borrowing money from whoever would give it, patching one lie with another. He had forged my signature on 2 co-signed loans. He'd taken out another under his own name, using my property as collateral before I sold it. I sat there staring at the documents, the weight of it pressing into my chest. The son I had once trusted with my home, my heart, had gambled away not just money, but honor. A part of me wanted to fix it, to protect him like I always had. That's what mothers do, isn't it? We patch things, we forgive. But this time, forgiveness felt like poison. Every call from a collector, every knock at the door made it clear. The people he owed weren't the kind you reason with. I saw cars idling outside my street, heard heavy knocks at night. One voice on the phone warned me to tell Ryan to pay up before someone gets hurt. That's when something inside me shifted. Love didn't mean blind rescue. It meant truth. It meant boundaries. If I paid his debts, it wouldn't save him. It would bury both of us. So I made my choice. I gathered everything, the statements, messages, threats, and brought them to Laura. We spent hours going through them, piece by piece, She looked at me and said I had grounds not just for protection, but for justice. It broke my heart to hear it framed that way. But she was right. Ryan had crossed a line that love couldn't erase. That night, as I locked the door and turned off the porch light, I felt a strange calm settle over me. This wasn't the end of the story. It was the start of accountability. The truth was ugly, but it was mine now, and I would no longer let his desperation decide my fate. The sound of the gavel echoed like thunder in my chest. Even before the judge entered, the courtroom felt heavy, too quiet, too bright, too full of things that couldn't be undone. I could hear the faint shuffle of papers, the soft murmur of strangers deciding the fate of what used to be my family. I sat there with my hands folded, staring at the polished wood of the table, trying to steady my breathing. Across from me sat Ryan, my son. He wouldn't meet my eyes. It felt like looking at a stranger wearing his face. The boy I once carried in my arms had become the man accusing me of being unstable, claiming I didn't understand what I'd signed, that I'd imagined his lies. The same story his wife spread online months earlier, now dressed up as a defense. Hearing it in that room, under oath, broke something inside me all over again. For a moment, I almost wanted to stop everything, to tell the judge it wasn't worth it, that I didn't need justice if it meant watching my child unravel like this. But then I remembered every sleepless night, every threat, every cruel whisper from people who once called me neighbor. I remembered the truth sitting quietly in my files, cold, exact, undeniable. When Laura stood, she was calm. She laid everything out. Records, forged signatures, bank transactions that traced a trail of deceit right back to Ryan. She spoke with precision, not passion. I barely heard her words. I was watching Ryan's face instead. Each piece of evidence chipped away at his defiance. By the time the witness confirmed the handwriting analysis, his shoulders had sunk. He looked small, lost. The judge's verdict came like a slow exhale. My name cleared. Restitution ordered. Protective measures granted. I'd won, but the word win felt hollow. Ryan didn't look at me when he left the room. He slammed the door, muttering under his breath, and for a heartbeat I saw the little boy he used to be, the one who used to run into my arms after scraping his knee. That image nearly broke me. When the bailiff told me I could go, I stood on legs that didn't feel like my own. Outside, the sun hit my face. It was warm, soft, too gentle for what I felt inside. People passed me without knowing the war I'd just fought, or what it cost to stand my ground. Justice can bring peace, but not joy. It can clear your name, but it cannot mend a heart. As I walked down the courthouse steps, the air felt lighter, but so did my family. I knew I had done what was right, but I also knew some victories leave scars that never fade. Ahead of me, the wind rustled the trees, and I thought this is where healing begins, not where it ends. The mornings feel different now, quieter, softer. There's a kind of silence that follows chaos, the kind that doesn't ache anymore, just breathes. I wake up, open the curtains, and for a few seconds, I simply watch the sunlight stretch across the floor. The world keeps moving, even after everything breaks. That's something I've learned. It's been months since the trial. The house feels emptier, but not lonely. There's peace in knowing the truth stands. Even if the family doesn't, sometimes I still expect the phone to ring or a knock at the door, but it never comes. Instead, I've found a new rhythm. I tend to my garden again. The roses came back this spring, stronger, wilder, like they never stopped believing in the soil. Maybe that's what healing really is, not pretending nothing happened, but choosing to grow anyway. I've had time to think about love, about what it means to forgive. Forgiveness isn't pretending someone didn't hurt you. It's letting go of the need to carry that pain around like proof. I've forgiven Ryan in my heart, but I don't wait for his apology anymore. Love without boundaries isn't love, it's surrender. And I've surrendered enough pieces of myself in this life. There's an empty chair at my kitchen table where he used to sit. I don't hide it, and I don't fill it. It's a reminder that peace sometimes looks like absence, that courage doesn't always roar. It can whisper too, saying I made it through. I share this not because my story is unique, but because it's not. Too many people stay silent when betrayal wears a familiar face. If you've been there, if you've had to choose between your heart and your sanity, I hope my story reminds you that choosing yourself is not selfish. It's sacred. Justice gave me freedom, but forgiveness gave me peace. Both took time. Both cost something. But standing here now, with sunlight warming my hands and earth beneath my feet, I know I did what I had to do. Thank you for listening. If my story touched something in you, if it made you think about your own strength, your own healing, I'd like to hear it. Leave a comment. Share your truth. Maybe that's how we all heal, one story at a time. Peace isn't found in what we win or lose. It's found in the quiet moments after, when we finally remember who we are.